Welcome to part 2 of the Gospel for men who refuse to be weak. In part 1, we spoke about why modern men feel lost even when they are disciplined, and why Christ was never weak. In this part, we are going to talk about a pattern you see everywhere, but rarely hear explained: why discipline without God slowly turns men cold. Discipline is powerful. There is no denying that. Discipline builds structure where there was chaos. It creates order in a man's life. It separates men who act from men who complain. A disciplined man wakes up early, trains his body, sharpens his mind, controls his habits, and delays gratification. In a world addicted to comfort, discipline feels like strength. And for a while, it works. But discipline by itself is not enough. When discipline has no higher purpose, it eventually becomes a burden instead of a tool. At first, discipline gives a man confidence. He feels in control. He feels superior to his old self and to those who are still undisciplined. But over time, something subtle begins to happen. The discipline remains, but the meaning behind it fades. The man starts asking questions he does not know how to answer. Why am I doing this? What am I building toward? What is all this effort for? If a man cannot answer those questions, discipline hardens him instead of shaping him. This is why so many disciplined men become emotionally distant. They are strong, but not warm. Controlled, but not compassionate. Focused, but not fulfilled. Their discipline is fueled by fear of weakness, fear of being ordinary, fear of losing control. And fear is a terrible foundation for a man's life. Without God, discipline becomes self-worship. The man becomes the highest authority in his own life. His standards become absolute. His control becomes rigid. And when a man places himself at the center, he has no room for grace, patience, or humility. Everything becomes a test. Everything becomes a threat to his identity. This is where men become cold. They stop forgiving easily. They stop understanding weakness in others. They stop allowing themselves to feel deeply. Emotion becomes something to suppress instead of something to govern. Relationships become transactional. People are measured by usefulness instead of humanity. The man may be disciplined, but he is no longer at peace. Stoicism, when separated from God, trains men to suppress emotion rather than redeem it. Red pill thinking, when separated from God, trains men to dominate reality rather than steward it. Both produce strength, but neither produces wholeness. Strength without wholeness always decays. God does not oppose discipline. God demands it, but he never intended discipline to replace him. When discipline is rooted in God, it changes character instead of inflating ego. It produces patience instead of pride. It creates strength that can carry responsibility without becoming cruel. Discipline rooted in God is not about control for its own sake. It is about alignment. Alignment with truth. Alignment with purpose. Alignment with something higher than the self. This is why Christ stands apart from every self-improvement philosophy. Jesus was disciplined, but his discipline was not driven by fear, pride, or image. It was driven by obedience. He fasted, but not to prove toughness. He suffered, but not to build status. He submitted, not because he was weak, but because he understood authority. His strength was anchored in purpose, not ego. When Christ says deny yourself, he is not telling men to hate themselves. He is telling them to dethrone the ego. When he says pick up your cross, he is not glorifying suffering for its own sake. He is giving suffering a direction. He is teaching men that pain can refine instead of corrupt if it is carried with meaning. This is the difference between a man who is disciplined and a man who is transformed. A disciplined man can control himself. A transformed man can give himself. A disciplined man resists weakness. A transformed man carries responsibility. A disciplined man fears losing control. A transformed man trusts God with control. Without God, discipline eventually collapses into one of two extremes. Either the man burns out because he cannot carry the weight of being his own God, or he becomes bitter because the world does not reward him the way he thinks it should. Both outcomes lead to coldness. With God, discipline becomes sustainable. It becomes purposeful. It becomes something that sharpens a man without isolating him. It builds strength without destroying empathy. It creates leaders instead of tyrants. This is why men who remove God from the equation often become impressive but lonely, capable but disconnected, strong but unsatisfied. They master habits, but never master meaning. They govern their schedule, but not their soul. God is not a replacement for discipline. He is the foundation that discipline needs in order to endure. In the next part, we will talk about what restored masculinity actually looks like, not dominance, not passivity, but strength that serves, leads, and protects without apology.